Hey guys, welcome back to the Spread Out Loud podcast. Today I'm sharing some personal and professional updates and how they sort of relate to how I will be showing up on the podcast. Transparently, I really don't have a plan for this episode. I just sort of wanted to provide an update and maybe speak from the heart a little bit here. But essentially, I've recently made some decisions about the work that I want to do in the field of nutrition and how I really want to show up as a registered dietitian, how I want to help people, and also how I really want to leverage my skills and background in marketing and public relations with nutrition. There's also a part of me that is honestly just dying to be a little bit more creative, and a lot of that has also been coming through in sort of playing into some of the decisions that I've made recently. And while I wouldn't say that the path ahead is crystal clear, I'm really excited for this next chapter for myself. In one of my earlier episodes, I talked about how nutrition was a second career path for me and my evolution from the marketing and public relations into the field of nutrition and what led me to where I am today. If you didn't listen to that episode, long story short, I didn't go to school for nutrition originally. I originally went to school for marketing and then worked in the fields of marketing and public relations. And my path to studying nutrition was absolutely not linear, but for the past 3 years or so, I've really been primarily working in this nutrition counseling space where I do one-to-one nutrition counseling. I wouldn't say that's the only thing that I've done. I've also done a lot of content related to blogs and writing for previous jobs and other companies. Some of those experiences have allowed me to sort of like flex those marketing skills as well. But none of that has really showed up for me like in my business. So a lot of this work has been for other companies or organizations. The work that I have done in the one-to-one visits has been so fundamental for my expertise as a registered dietitian. It's through working with people one-on-one that I've really understood like what are the big themes that people struggle with, but also what is the right balance of sharing enough information so that people can be informed and educated and make empowered decisions with that information, but not overwhelmed. And I think that registered dietitians and nutrition professionals and health professionals, we don't always get it right and we don't always get it perfect. Sometimes the information is too complex and it might go over people's heads, but I think sometimes the reaction to that is to oversimplify it to the point where people don't necessarily understand the why behind some of the recommendations. And my goal is to show up in a way where I can bring it to this level so that someone can understand the why behind some nutrition related recommendations, but not be bombarded with so much science that it just becomes overwhelming. Most people who are seeking help with nutrition are already overwhelmed. I don't think it serves people to bombard them with too much science, but I also think it really does a disservice to them if we're oversimplifying it. And I say to people, if I'm doing my job correctly, if we are working one-on-one and I'm doing my job the right way, you won't need me one day because my goal is to equip you or whoever I'm working with the tools and understanding so that you can then use those tools in the future to help yourself. It's sort of like therapy. You're working through your own stuff, but you're also gaining the skills to help you in the future. And in therapy, you might have seasons where you need like a little bit more support. You might take a break. You might need to go back to therapy at some point, or maybe you just need sort of one bout of help and that experience equips you again with those skills and then you're able to help yourself in the future. All of this is to say that I am grateful for the volume of one-to-one visits that I have had because I have learned so much about what it means to help people. And it's not just the nutrition education. A lot of it is the counseling side as well. Just being a soundboard for other people to understand their own struggles. You know, being that person that can help someone identify like, what are the barriers in place for me? What are the things that actually help me? And that's not something that you really learn in school, or that's not something that I learned in school. I probably had one lecture on motivational interviewing. And I guess depending on the area of nutrition that you want to work in, maybe that's sufficient, but you learn these skills obviously by doing the work. And that's true for every single career. You learn how to do the job by working. But with this, I have learned that yes, everyone is individual and yes, everyone is unique, but there are themes. And I am personally feeling called to show up in a way that allows me to help more people. I have been feeling called to show up in this way for quite a long time. And I think I'm at the point in my life where I'm just realizing I'm never going to feel more ready, or I feel ready enough to make a change in my career and in my life. And I think I've just transparently finally given myself that permission. I think I was waiting for maybe a certain loud signal from the universe, or maybe a financial checkpoint, or an opportunity to present itself. I'm honestly not quite sure what I have been waiting for. Maybe a certain sense of safety or stability in my career and in my life. But I'm just realizing I'm never going to feel more ready, or I feel as ready as I will ever feel. And now it's time to just make the change. I also want to say that this change feels very in alignment with my background, and I'll touch on this in one second, but also just what I want for myself on a personal level. When you're working with people one-to-one so often, it doesn't leave much space for these other lines of work that can really help people, or at least in the way that I'm currently working, in the volume of one-to-one visits that I have currently. And there's value in both. The one-to-one visits show me so much about people's pain points and struggles, and they help me to become a better dietitian, but they also take away from the time that I am able to spend creating content or resources that can help more people at large. And it's actually that line of work that I feel like really flexes some of my experience and skills in writing and in marketing, and some lines of work that just feel a bit more creative. A lot of times in my visits, people might ask for things. I'm like, oh, I would love to create a resource for that. I just don't have the time. And these are resources that would benefit multiple people, and that for me as well would feel quite satisfying to put together. And if you're wondering, what does this look like? The things that I'm envisioning for this next chapter in my career and in my business are more content like blogs or e-guides or social media content. As much as I transparently hate social media, I guess I shouldn't say that. I don't hate social media if I keep my relationship with social media in check and I'm using it intentionally, and especially in business if I'm using it as a platform and a tool. But as a consumer of social media, I don't like the grip that it has on me sometimes. And by that, I really just mean doom scrolling. And there are certainly certain habits that prevent me from doom scrolling, and habits that really set the stage for me to doom scroll. Like, for example, if I wake up in the morning and I check my phone, odds are that I'm going to be doom scrolling later that day. Versus if I wake up and use, a different alarm other than the alarm on my phone, or if I don't check anything and sort of get the day started before I check social media or email even, my day just goes a lot differently. Anyways, that's a tangent, but there is value in social media. Again, if I can sort of use it as a tool and have that boundary with myself. So blogs, e-guides, social media content, e-newsletter content. I really love e-newsletters because they feel a little bit more personal. And then maybe even things like webinars, like a free live presentation from me that you could attend, or a course, or a membership. And these are ideas that I have had for quite some time. This is me being really transparent, letting you guys know where my head is at. These are things that I want to work on. And again, I don't have a crystal clear path on, okay, I'm going to have X number of blogs, or this is the exact course that I want to create. Because a lot of that is going to depend on my audience and maybe even you. Seeing what people need and what people want and serving in that way. I have a lot of ideas, but I also know that as a dietitian, as someone who's doing this work, I'm really in it. And so I might have an idea for something, but if it's not actually what people need, then it doesn't really benefit anyone for me to just create what I want to create if it's not what people need. And so I think that's the really exciting part for me, is that this aspect of my business sort of feels like this like living, breathing thing where I'll nurture it. And if I nurture it correctly, it will grow. But it starts with just taking some initial steps and seeing what works and what doesn't work. I think also just viewing all of this as an experiment takes a lot of pressure off. But with that, I am sort of committed to this change. All of this is to say that I am changing things in the way that I show up in this field. And so you can expect to see, again, more of that content from me. As far as my one-to-one visits go, I have reduced the volume of visits that I'm doing. I think giving myself that permission is something I grappled with for a while. And while I would love to help everyone, it does feel really good to give myself this time and space to follow through on the things that I have felt called to follow through on for so long. And it's amazing energetically how that feels in my body as well. Like I feel excited. I also feel energized. And it's weird because I would say I am definitely someone who thinks quite a bit. I'm more logical than I am emotional. And so it's been really interesting to just actually allow myself to move with what feels good. And I think this is really all about alignment, when we sort of like quiet the noise and just allow ourselves to create some space and tap into what feels good for you. You can take that aligned action. And I feel like that's what I'm doing. And it's feeling good so far. I am surprised by how much anxiety I don't have about this, which is really interesting. I think a lot of it has to do with blind faith. All of this is to say that in order for me to make these changes and to dive into other areas, it's going to require more time from me. And at this time, podcasting might not be something that I'm able to keep the space for as I get these other areas of my business started. And my intent here is to show up in a way that actually helps people and also just authentically and transparently. And I think giving myself the permission to just a lot more brain space to these other areas is really what I need right now and what I feel called to do right now. I have thought a lot about, okay, if I am taking a pause from the podcast, does that mean I'm not committed to this? And when you commit to something, I do believe like that does involve, you're not always going to want to do it, right? But I do know that what feels right for me is to, again, take a pause from the podcast to devote some more time and energy to these other areas. And this is only my 11th episode. I am not by any means thinking that I've got a massive audience and you guys are all like, no, Allie. Like, I know I am very new to all of this, but I will say that I'm really happy I've started. It feels cool to learn through this process and to sort of get into a rhythm with it. I think I'm more comfortable recording and sort of walking into the abyss than like earlier episodes. This is something that I want to continue. And in order for me to continue, it might take a pause. So this is my really, really long-winded way of saying that I'm going to take a break from the podcast for anywhere between 2 to 3 months. Again, transparently, I don't know what this will look like, but with the intent of showing up more consistently in other ways. So again, social media, growing my newsletter, growing my blog, creating more content so that I can help more people on a consistent basis. So that is my personal/professional update of the day. The feedback form that's linked in the show notes will stay live. So if you have requests for future episodes, you can continue to fill that out. But I am on Instagram at Sprout Out Loud. That's one word, SPROUTOUTLOUD. My website is sproutoutloud.com. And you can also just email me. My email is Allie@sproutoutloud.com. That's ALI@sproutoutloud.com. If there's other things that you would like to see, so if you have like a specific topic that you want guidance on, whether it's through a future podcast episode or an e-guide or an online workshop, I sincerely love to hear that. And that's, again, the intent with more of this audience building is to see what would actually be helpful. I should have mentioned this earlier, but In addition to changing how I work, I'm also narrowing my focus on really helping active women who are busy. And so a lot of my content will be geared towards busy, active women who want to build those sustainable nutrition and lifestyle habits so that they can show up in their lives the way that they would like to. I am not accepting work outside of that, but that is going to be like my main focus as far as the content that I'm creating. So if that's helpful to know, I should have shared that earlier. But that's really it for me today. This will be the last episode for a couple of months. I'll probably provide updates on those other platforms, or maybe I'll pop in and just provide like a quick update here. But I would say this is like a season 1 of this podcast. I'm really happy I've done this so far, and I'm excited to come back for season 2. So thank you for listening. You can find me on those other platforms that I mentioned, and I look forward to showing up here again in the near future.